Welcome to the latest episode of A Blind Date with Knowledge. I'm your host, Laura Brady, with co-host Stephen Liggett.
Cheers, Laura.
Well, we're here today at James Cook University Hospital.
Yes, we are.
And for a beautiful occasion, would you like to introduce the event?
Because it's got quite a long title, so you'd have to bear with me maybe. So we have just attended the South Tees Cardiovascular Clinical Research Celebration and Facility Opening.
Wow, what a title.
What a title indeed, but I have to say, it has been a really inspirational day.
Yeah.
We have had the pleasure of speaking to a number of representatives from the cardio unit and a couple of the people that gave some fantastic presentations. Do you want to go through who we have on the podcast this week, Laura?
Yeah, so all in one episode, we're going to speak to David Austin, who appeared already on the podcast in one of the early series when the academic cardiovascular unit was just a concept.
Just an idea that he had.
Exactly. Also coming up is Rebecca Maier, Enoch Akowuah, Steph Mack, Bev Atkinson, Nicky Cunningham, Ben Ward and Chris Wilkinson.
Yeah, that really is a tremendous lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Go check out some episodes from the first series of A Blind Date with Knowledge where we actually speak to David Austin and we speak to Enoch Akowuah. What a privilege to speak to them again today when the vision has actually happened. It's been realised, which is a great achievement to all involved.
Amazing. So should we get straight to it?
Should we just listen to the stars of the show?
Let's leave it to them. So I'm here with Professor Akowuah. I think last time we spoke to you it was Doctor, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be here today?
It's been a really wonderful day. It's just been so fantastic to see so many of our previous colleagues and old friends come and celebrate the journey we've had over the last 30 years, but also to mark the beginning of our new journey with the research facilities.
Yeah.
So it's been a great day.
It's lovely to see as well because it's so homegrown and all of the people who have now taken over have been training here and have had a big history with the place. So how do you think that like translates into working environments, like the teams that you have?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you've heard lots of people there talk about teamwork and trust and relationships, and someone said it's very much like a family, and I think as a hospital those themes went through, and I think the ACU has all those sort of principles within it really. So great to kind of build on work that people like Mark who was talking today and Jim have sort of put in place, and the foundations have put in place for us to build on. So that's fantastic, and in a way that's very much the core what we need to try and do as well. So with our research fellows, we've got 7 research fellows. It's about building them up so that when we disappear, that this carries on and grows into something even more amazing.
Yeah, that statement with the continuous leadership is very important.
That's right. It doesn't mean it's the same person all the time, but it just means that the principles kind of flow through the new people who come along.
Yeah, amazing. So really excited now to go and have a tour of the facility and see that there. So thank you for the day. Right. And is there anything that you'd like to say for people who maybe aren't here, or to just pass on that message?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is that the facility's now here. One of our core aims is to take ideas that clinicians, nurses, other professionals have and sort of turn them into research projects that are fundable and can answer really good questions. So if you've got an idea or you're interested in research, that's what it's there for. So come and talk to us. There'll always be someone to listen to you, and we're really looking to work together with everybody to try and kind of come up with these projects which will make a difference to our patients.
That's an amazing call out. It's so great to see. There's already a lot going on, and I hope to see a lot more in the future.
Great. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. So I'm here now with the head of the academic cardiovascular unit, Rebecca Maier. Hi.
Hello.
So it's so great to be here. We've had really good conversations with people today celebrating the research here. So how is it for you? How are you feeling?
Well, from my perspective, it's been really a fantastic day. So this is the kind of culmination of a vision that started many years ago, before my time. And so to see and to be able to welcome back people that have been so instrumental to the development of the unit as a clinical space, but also then the development of research, and then for us, the help that they've given us in developing this facility. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's so great to see them come back and support and have a presence.
Absolutely. And actually, from my perspective, to hear about some of that history, because we think a lot about the today and what's going forward, but actually to understand how much has gone on before, I think is hugely important. And I think it was said that we were sort of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
And I really sort of felt that today. So it was great.
Yeah, and I think it unites us as well. So for you coming into the process, like the concept of creating this unit was many years ago, but then for you, at the point that you've come into this process, how do you integrate into that unit? How's that been?
So I think one of the great things, so the ACU was formed in 2021, and I was party to some of those early conversations and then joined the unit from my previous role in 2022. So I was there right at the start of the fundraising campaign for this facility. So actually it's been many of the kind of final bits of planning have been around having these two units together, or the two teams, the academic cardiovascular unit team, which is clearly the academic team that are designing and managing research, and then also that delivery team in the same space. Now, clearly, we've only recently moved into the same space, but already I can feel the difference in the conversations that we're able to have. We are already thinking about, ways of cross-working, being able to offer that sort of seamless integration across the pathway of research. So from the design and the concept, working with all sorts of ideas from across the board, and then taking that all the way through to being able to deliver it is fantastic. And I think underpinning that with something that we're really passionate about, which is keeping the patient at the centre of that public and patient involvement is key. We're able to now take an idea that might come out of a clinical environment, speak to patients directly about it, design it, potentially go and get the funding, and then deliver it. And to do all of that in one space is so fabulous, and will benefit people on Teesside, but hopefully more widely than that.
Yeah, we've got definitely growing that presence like nationally and internationally.
Absolutely.
And so how does having the unit sort of integrated with other services, how does that help sort of collaborate with the delivery support services? So, cardiology, I guess it would be radiology and other teams like that.
Absolutely. So one of the really important things when you design a trial is to design it in a way that will actually be deliverable.
Yeah. And
one of the challenges that you have when you're slightly removed from that clinical space is that you can start to design things that won't, that anyone in the delivery team looks at and goes, well, that will never work. And of course, now we have this huge opportunity to just be able to have those conversations much more easily. And we have begun those already within, those support services in the TVRA. So working with the pharmacy team, working with, most recently was around an MRI sub-study, and those conversations being able to happen about what the protocol might look like for that going into that particular project, working with Sarah Bircham in the laboratory side. We've got a lot of samples left over from one project, and thinking about how those are stored and what's happening. So I think for us, it's fantastic to be integrated and not removed from that, because actually that will make it's allowed us to start establishing those relationships, but B, when we're designing new things, we can just do that so much more effectively.
Yeah, amazing. So your presentation this morning really was great to set out where we've come from and sort of point us where we're going. So I would like to ask you to expand a bit more on one of the slides where you had the vision and sort of what is the vision for the ACU going forward?
So we are an academic unit, and we want to be an internationally recognised centre of excellence in the design and then subsequently the delivery of trials and studies that will benefit patients and hopefully the wider NHS by improving outcomes. So that's our vision statement. And we want to do that with a sort of set of values that are around being patient-centred. We want to do world-class research. We want to collaborate widely. And we as a unit have a number of different aims. So we want to be designing and leading the design of a number of studies, and we're already doing an awful lot of that. We want to make sure that we're able to manage and coordinate the studies that we run. And again, I think we're a way to doing that. We've got a team that's able to help us with that, which is brilliant. We very much see our role in helping others as vital. This isn't just about those in the ACU now. This is actually, we're not here just for us. This has to widen out. And so anyone who's across the department that's got ideas, we want to work with them to help them to make that journey, potentially to start by being a co-applicant on a grant, but maybe to move on beyond that to hopefully leading their own research in the future, so to become a chief investigator. So that's about our sort of training and education role, and then moving on about training research to the future. So we currently have quite a large number of fellows, research fellows. They're predominantly clinical research fellows at the moment, but we want to make sure that we are building up that portfolio of fellows so that we can help to train the researchers of the future. And one of the lovely things today was to see some of those who have been trained by the department come back in. And clearly it's really important that we're not inward facing. We are collaborating widely, and we want to then essentially be part of that research culture and impact positively the research culture that's here at South Tees, in the department as well, but clearly kind of regionally and nationally as we can. And we do that through different projects, but we're also doing that through committee memberships. So those are our main vision, aims, and our values.
And I should have asked what you're not doing. But we're so lucky to have this in the region, and definitely I'm super excited to see where it will go, and I think we've got a lot of eyes on it at the moment. So have you got one final remark or statement for maybe people who weren't here today, and just to sort of sum up how it's gone and what we've talked about?
Well, I think there's been a few people today who've mentioned words such as pride. So I think we all are really proud and should be of what's been achieved so far. I think we are on, we've got the start of something really fantastic here. We can do more because of what we've achieved so far. This facility really is at the heart of that. And I think we're all really excited about the potential, about what can be achieved.
There's definitely a buzz in the air.
Exactly. And it was lovely today to see the coming together of all of that. And I think it's going to really propel us into a really bright future.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
So I'm sat here today with Stephanie Mack, who is the cardio research team lead. Known Steph for years, been trying for years to get you on the podcast, and here we are. Firstly, congratulations on a super celebration date. It's been a great celebration of the work and the research before the unit, and kind of the plans for the academic unit in the future. For someone that's been so heavily involved in the planning and the processes and trying to realise this vision, can you give an idea of how that's kind of been and how it's all worked?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's been a bit of a challenge to start off with, and the talk from this morning, I think what we've learned is that it's not a new thing. All these problems and barriers that we come to in our everyday life, and it's not just cardio, it's throughout the trust. We're always finding these barriers, but somehow the superheroes that work here, we just seem to overcome that, and it's the work of the research team and it's the work of cardiothoracic department that it was the right time to do it. It was the right time to start that proposal in 2019 when we started. And the reason why we chose, so when I did my talk, and the reason why I chose the Wizard of Oz is I was talking to Nicky Cunningham, who was a lead at the time with me, and she said, why don't you do it around kind of a journey? And we thought about the Wizard of Oz. And the reason why the Wizard of Oz came to our head is because when we first started to do it, we used to always see David he needed the courage to do something about that proposal. Yeah. And David always used to say that Nick was the brains behind it all and I had the heart for it. So that's why we thought, oh my goodness, the Wizard of Oz is just an ideal thing. So that's where that came from.
The theme of your presentation totally made sense, and isn't it just a great summary of if to realise a vision is you need heart, your mind and courage totally. To do it, which is fantastic. Something that really struck me from the presentations that were kind of a retrospective look, like how exciting that time in the 90s must have been to start like a brand new unit, just build it from the ground up. There probably are some similarities with this new facility that you have to drive now. Do you feel excited for the next few years?
Oh, absolutely. And like I said in my presentation, it's lovely to be part of that footprint again, because I think the problem is when you're out of the footprint and you're only stepping in now and again to see patients and things, people don't understand what we do or what we're about and the team that we have. So it was just so important for us to be here, to be on the cardio corridor and to have people coming in. And everyone who works in cardio, they're so passionate about the work that they do about their patients. And I think sometimes research can be a little bit of a taboo subject, and that's what we need to get away from. We need research to be embedded in that patient journey and into their pathway. From the minute they hit the wards, when they're admitted, we need to show that we've got a research study for you to go in. And so on their pathways, right, have you been spoke to about research? Let's see if there's anything that you can help us with. And to be honest, the wards and the cath labs and the theatres where we do our research now, they do get that answer of, oh, are we doing something else kind of thing. Yeah. And it's just nice, and it sounds a bit cheesy, but they have got like that family connection, I feel. And a lot of us have worked in different divisions within the cardio footprint, and it's just nice to be back. But this facility, it's just nice for research as well, I think. And I think it's going to be good moving forward to show that, hang on, research is important and we do need to be in that footprint. And my fellow colleagues, the other leads, always go on about needing space, needing time to do the research, and it's just not there. So I think this is a massive achievement. It's brilliant for us, but I think it's putting us out there for everybody else as well to understand that it's important. We need to strive for this.
Perfect. Yeah, I like just a fantastic summary. The cheese for your time, Steph, and I do think this could be a template for research departments in the trust to follow this kind of strategy of you're there on the ward, you're with your patients, and you've really created this sense of striving for the same vision. So
as long as I don't have to write any more proposals, I'm happy.
Fingers crossed, that's it for another 30 years.
Absolutely.
Cheers, Steph. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So I'm here now with Ben Ward. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. So I just want to quickly ask you how did you end up in research? What's your experience like so far being involved in cardio research?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I qualified and started working in cardiology and was really interested in how evidence-based practice actually comes into being. And so as a clinical nurse, I looked at ways of getting involved in research, and at that point it was really very hard to do so without taking the full leap. So unfortunately got a job here with at South Tees with the cardiovascular research delivery team. That was in 2019 as a research nurse, and I've been doing that ever since, with a short secondment to the academic unit.
Yeah, well, that's like often the case. We find, people who are interested in research, you have this calling for it when you're sort of in a clinical environment. You think, well, why is this here? Where's the evidence come from? So, what was it like being within the unit for the secondment role?
Yeah, that was really interesting. It was quite a challenge. I did it was a part-time secondment, so having to manage 2 jobs at the same time.
Wow.
Was a fair challenge, but really good to be part of, to be able to influence the setup of research, informed by delivery of research, was really something that I found really interesting and intellectually stimulating, I think.
Yeah.
And knowing how we could make things work based on patients' experience was really helpful. I was working on a study being brought from the States, so there was already a lot of work to be done adapting that study from a privatised American system to work within the NHS. So that gave us the opportunity to really try and make this work for science.
Yeah, because it does take that experienced eye to know how it can be adapted without, changing anything. And I think we spoke briefly before about some themes that are relevant when designing research. So do you want to sort of expand on that?
Things like patient involvement in design of not just, I guess, the paperwork that they'll see, but also possibly the outcome measures. We saw David Austin present a study today where they're looking at a slightly different way of analysing outcomes.
Yeah, it was the ratio, the win ratio against different parameters. But we spoke briefly about how those parameters are defined by patients. Then the study has a whole other level of impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that is something that clinical research really should be looking at, is what outcomes are we wanting to measure and why are they important and who are they important to? Is it to just a funder? Is it to the government? Is it to a public health authority? Or is it to the people whose lives are affected and whose lives we rely on to make the research happen? I think often as researchers and research delivery staff, we can kind of lose sight of the people that we are aiming to help and who are helping us. Yeah. There's a kind of two-way dialogue there.
Exactly. That's the reason we're doing that in the first place. Yeah. So we have to uplift that. Well, this centre seems great for that, and it's really exciting to see how it's progressed and where it will go in the future. Do you have a sort of statement for anybody who's maybe a little bit sceptical about research or, not really to do with research? What would your message to them sort of be?
I think my advice might be to get involved, take a look. If you're sceptical about the processes, then take a deeper dive in. So I think there's a tendency, I think we saw this through COVID as well, that we write off expertise and misunderstand the scientific method particularly. And without understanding the open approach to knowledge acquisition, you can come to a wrong understanding of how conclusions are reached and how they might be challenged. And the limitations, I think sometimes maybe we're not so good at communicating the limitations of research and the troubles that we had. One of my colleagues and I were just discussing in the poster hall the way that it would be great if the posters had a backside which showed, for each statement that said, this many patients were recruited, this many finished. Yeah. It actually told the full story of what that involved.
That's really interesting. I think it is important. I would love to have that sort of the converse side of a poster. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I'm here now with Nicky Cunningham. Hi, Nicky.
Hi.
So you've been involved in cardiology at James Cook for a long time. Would you like to give us a bit of background of that and sort of when you started and how you've seen things change since then?
So I actually trained in South Tees and Middlesbrough General Hospital as we had then, and I qualified in 93. so quite some time ago now. And in 94, I was actually one of the first lot of staff to come and work within cardiothoracic surgery. Yeah. So I actually started as a cardiac nurse back from 1994. And then there was these new roles coming along called nurse practitioners and specialist nurses. And I really wanted to get into something that was a bit more of a specialism within cardio. And the opportunity came up to be a research nurse, which was something that there was a few in the trust, but there wasn't many in that role. So that was really where I started in about 1997, I think.
Wow. So that was sort of when research nurse roles were kind of becoming more on the scene.
Definitely, yes. A lot of the time there was pockets of little tiny bits of projects going on with medics who may have support from other people, but there weren't really specific roles, and it was very much seen as a clinical trial coordinator role, but with very much a nursing element to it. And we employed 2 within the first, I suppose, cohort of people coming through into research nursing teams within cardiovascular. And that's, we had a handful of studies to start off with.
Yeah, it was really interesting this morning to hear sort of how much has changed in cardio treatment since then. We're talking about the aspirin, the statins and these things. So do you remember sort of any studies or any projects that you worked on in those early days that you think now, like, wow, we've moved on from there?
Definitely. And I remember from being even a student nurse, when you first went to coronary care, I can remember where those early thrombolysis days, where that was the only treatment you could offer, and you could only offer that to a very small percentage of the people who came in having a heart attack. Right. But from then, I think the things that really stand out were the early intervention studies. And we started doing PCI, percutaneous coronary intervention. We were quite early on in this area doing that, but it wasn't a 24/7 service. It wasn't something that came through as a one-off. It's more focused on delivering that kind of intervention in more of a structured way rather than emergency treatment. And we did some studies, one particularly called the Finesse study, that was looking at that, and we had to open it up 24/7. So we recruited for this study round the clock. And I definitely think that really changed things, and it definitely changed things for the way that they realised that this is something that is time critical for patients coming in to go straight for PCI treatment following a heart attack. And that's changed the way cardiovascular medicine is. But one I always remember, and I had a little keepsake that was given to me afterwards, was one of, if you're lucky enough, you get to be involved in some studies that are that outstandingly good, the study actually closes earlier because it's proven to be so outstanding. And that was the first drug-eluting stent study. And I always remember, I don't even remember those pens where you used to either tip upside down and have a naked lady on the end. This one, you could tip upside down and it actually had one of the stents in the thing. And I think I've still got it somewhere.
I love a bit of machine memorabilia.
I'm sure that's leaked and is not working now. But I remember those times really well, because it was just amazing to be part of something that was changing the outcomes for patients so dramatically, that this particularly getting drugs on a stent that were really changed the way PCI work was done and change the outcomes for people with heart attacks. So you do feel a sense of pride for being part of that and being involved in those early studies.
It's so amazing. And one of the things to talk about is like innovative study design and things. And there's only one way that really happens is by doing it and by identifying the need that's there. And so this innovation that you've seen, like how do you think that's going to sort of transform now that the unit is here and now you've got this sort of, it's already grown since then, but how will you see it sort of further expand from now?
So then it was predominantly delivering hosted studies. It wasn't necessarily homegrown research. Right. We did have some that were mentioned today, like the Merlin and stars that we tried to do, but it was very difficult in those times. You've got to remember, we didn't have an R&D department. They were only very new, so there were maybe 1 or 2 people working in R&D for the organisation to be able to support you to set up that study. So we ran the department, I suppose, like a mini business where we did all our own finances, we did our own contractual agreements and all our own ethics submissions and everything else. So even though we say it's delivery, it's that those roles have been taken up now. We've got a much better infrastructure, and with the introduction of NIHR, but we didn't have any of that then. So those studies were a lot more complicated to run than maybe they are now without that infrastructure and that support. However, we did it, but our majority of our work was commercial work. And I know, as Mark Belder alluded to earlier today, he mentioned that we wanted to actually bring some funding in to be able to support more homegrown research. But we didn't necessarily have the strong links that we needed to with the academic side. And now they've got the academic cardiovascular unit within the clinical research facility with the delivery team that's continuing to grow, then it's visible. Research is here in that cardiovascular footprint within an organisation. And it's at a time as well when I feel where research, especially research delivery, is moving away from the clinical areas because of the tightness of footprints and space, but we really need to be visible. We need to be there. We need the staff need to know that we do to develop that research culture. We need to show what can be done, and I think we're starting to do that in lots of different ways now.
Yeah. And so, talking about developing that culture, I'd like to ask you about the Be Curious campaign and how that sort of what impact that has on the culture of research.
So within the organisation, we've developed the Be Curious campaign, and it's on our model of professional practice for nurses, midwives and allied health professions as supporting all staff to be curious. And what this is about is it's the full stretch of research. We're not out necessarily to make everybody into full-time researchers. It's about that support and to be able to delve into research, whether that's supporting, delivering or leading research or implementing the evidence that we get from research, and just seeing that more as part of their role, which has not necessarily been the culture. So even though it's within any academic awards that you get, you are taught the methodology of research and taught about the importance of the evidence. A lot of people see that as the roles of people who are working in research and not necessarily each and every clinical member of staff. And that's that's why we've got the Be Curious campaign, is to hopefully to get people to think a bit differently about what they're doing, whether that's as an individual, within their profession, within their team and department, but just to try and approach things a bit differently. Now that there's more support growing within the organisation to be able to support people to get engaged with research and to learn and just be more aware of what research is going on, then we hopefully want to harness that with our Be Curious and getting everyone to be busy bees and getting curious about research.
That's amazing, because we need that integrated understanding, definitely, and have the perspectives are so valuable from that viewpoint. So we need to make sure that they're heard and explored and implemented. Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Do you have a final message for our listeners about this day or the cardio research here in general?
I think one thing that today's shown is that everyone said about teamwork and what teamwork's brought, but a lot of people here and myself have always mentioned, no matter who goes where, we've got a lot of people who've come back to see this celebration event today. It is like a family. We support each other. We've helped drive each other. We're there when people want to offload, and that's really been evident, and it's been worth the blood, sweat and tears. That's definitely, and it's just great for it all to come to fruition.
Amazing. And this is like the new beginning now as well. So
definitely.
Great. Amazing. Thank you.
Themes of our conversations today have been people on the journey, I guess, of cardio research at South T. So we can maybe talk about when you started, like the changes you've seen, and maybe how you see this unit's kind of changing how things are done maybe?
So I started in 1983.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, 1983, anyway. And worked on coronary care. And what we did, or shall I say, didn't do to patients was there was nothing. So we just used to keep them pain-free, look after them, and if they were arrested, we'd shock them. And we didn't even give them aspirin then.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was how early it was.
There's a little bit of that in some of the presentations earlier.
Yeah, Dr. DeBelder said,
like, if you came into hospital with like
that was
heart
it,
attack, that was probably it for you. And now it's completely changed, isn't it?
We used to always have a poorly patient in bed 10 all the time. And then we also used to have where if they were really ill, we had to be really ill, we could take them up to Newcastle and we used to have to get an ambulance, sit sideways and go to Newcastle. So from then we've done lots of different research, first with coronary care teams doing sort of lysis trials and things like that. And now if you look at what a patient would come in now, they'll get straight away, as soon as they come in, they'll be put on 5 different medications as soon as they come through the door, which will be, it's excellent. They get your aspirin, you get either super aspirin, which would be Vasicral or something, and then you'll be on a statin, and you'll be on a beta blocker, and you'll be on an ACE inhibitor as soon as you come through the door. And then depending on what your left ventricle functions like, you'll be put on other tablets as well. And that's all through research. And that is amazing from that. So it is good.
So for someone that's had like such a long and successful career in cardiology as a whole, how easy did you find the transition to research or to start to use all of these new treatments?
Well, when I started, it was quite at the early age of the research. They weren't on 5 tablets. So we were just developing them. We went
been there since
1999 I went in. So it's been for a long time, and then we've just watched them all. And now it's lovely. And we used to go to some of the big cardiac societies, sort of British Cardiac Society meetings, and they would talk about different studies, and as they're looking at different studies, you'll think, oh, I remember Mr. X and Mrs. Y on that study, and you'd know all about the people that were on the studies that we're talking about.
Fantastic.
So, I don't know, it just makes it really worthwhile and rewarding.
So that must be the driver for you, is it?
Yes.
Because from someone that started in research maybe it'd be nearly 10 years now probably, but the cardio department's always been such a passionate promoter of research, and you've obviously been a big part of that. So what has been your biggest takeaway from your research journey, would you say?
Just what we offer patients, it's just really rewarding when we see them. It's really lovely with the patients. But I mean, halfway through I left to go and do heart failure because of all the research, and I fancied doing I did heart failure service for a couple of years. But I really missed the research because it was amazing how you feel as if you're behind, because when you're in the research you know what's coming up all the time, you're constantly aware what's going ahead and what new things are coming in, what new innovations. And as soon as there was another post, I came back. And it was lovely.
I suppose just the knowledge of the next treatment or next drug, it obviously improves the care that you can give your patients and keeps you involved.
One of the things that I'm really positive with research, especially if we've got long-term trials, because we have quite a lot of long-term trials, and it's that anyone can get patients into studies, and so your recruitment figures can be high, but the hard bit's retention.
Yes.
You must make sure that you keep them retained, and I've had patients on studies for 7 years and 8 years, and it's brilliant that you keep them throughout that time. And they come like friends, really, about the dogs and the grandkids, and they'll show you pictures. And we always say to patients, because they're giving up their time to help us, it's not something they have to come into hospital for. No. We therefore give our time for them. So if they want to spend a little bit more time and discuss different things, we will do. And that's one of the benefits of being in the study.
Totally, and that is nice. The give and take. The 2 or 3 of the guests have actually spoke about that.
Yeah.
Your relationship involved in the participants, like you've explained. They can be on trials for many years. So that's really something to share, isn't it? How develop those relationships in your patients or your research participants.
And I'm always proud if at the end of a big long study that I've kept 100% retention.
Yeah.
They might not be on the tablets because of various problems, but I've retained them right to the last minute. And so therefore I've got no change to any of the data. I've retained them. That's it.
Yeah. Fantastic. So
that's nice.
Since we time though, Bev, and just before we let you go, do you have any future plans or how you see this trial unit growing?
Trial unit growing. Right, well, my future plans is I've retired and returned. So I've retired and returned. So I only do 2 days a week, which is even better. And it means I love coming to work, I bounce to work. And I try to help, rather than be on the lead on a couple of studies, I try to help everybody with all of them. And I just think this is brilliant. And I think talking to Rebecca, her presentation was really clear and it looks as if we'll strive forward. And then Joel's been down here and he's excited as a puppy to do some study, and it's really good.
Speaking of Steph earlier, this could be the template for all research departments. I mean, I know space is at a premium, but the model of trying to get as close to the patients as you can, you're forming that team, you're forming that community, and that's really shone through in the people that we spoke to today.
It's been lovely. It's been a lovely night.
It's been a great day, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the best thing about it is just everybody, even older people, to come back. Yeah. Because everyone feels as if you just one big family. Our patients said that. Everybody said that. A family. Yeah. It's one big family, everyone.
Do you think that's because the vision from
right at the beginning
is almost the same, isn't it?
Flows through.
We spoke to Enoch and he was obviously saying it's the continuity of the leadership. It doesn't have to be the same leader, but
no, it's how
the vision,
it's the style.
It's the style, and you grow the people to come through, which is fantastic.
Well, I just remember when I left for Heart Failure, and we've still met up with everyone in meetings, but as I said at one of the meetings, I'm going back to research, blah, 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 and I always went to Dr. Hall saying, welcome back to the fold. Nice. And you just thought,
because you were back in.
Now we've got this place. It's
fantastic. Cheers, Bev.
So I'm here now with Chris Wilkinson. We've really enjoyed your talk this morning, but could you just give us maybe a 60-second overview of what it was for those who didn't hear?
Yeah, sure. So 30,000 people in the UK have a cardiac arrest every year, but an external defibrillator is only used in about 10% of those cases. So we were interested in whether there were differences between the poorest and the richest neighbourhoods and how far they had to travel to get to the nearest defibrillator. And we found that there were quite significant differences based on how deprived communities were as to how far they had to travel to the defibrillator, such that in Scotland it would take an extra 8 minutes to retrieve a defibrillator for the most deprived compared to the least deprived neighbourhoods, and in England it was about 2.5 minutes. So that's quite significant because obviously every minute matters when someone's in cardiac arrest.
Yeah, and it's quite a common theme, unfortunately, about the sort of people who need healthcare the most. Often it's the most inaccessible areas. So where's that leading you now? What's the outcome of that? We've seen some coverage on local news outlets. You've got a lot of support from the community. So how does that materialise for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was featured in a lot of the national press. So it's great to see it getting some traction. It's been discussed in a private members' bill in House of Commons and was raised at Prime Minister's question time. So hopefully there'll be some policy changes. I mean, the big policy changes that make a big difference would be removing VAT from defibrillators. Because I didn't realise this, but the government takes a slice every time a charity buys a defibrillator.
No way.
Policy changes like to housing policy, so making sure that every new housing development has a defibrillator when it's built, they would make a big difference. And then the British Heart Foundation followed up our research by funding 220 defibrillators to go into the most deprived communities. So hopefully all of these things will improve the situation over time.
Yeah, it's so good to see that translate into real outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask you mentioned something about drone technology, something that we're excited about, sort of innovative technologies being incorporated into healthcare and medical research. So how do you see the impact of that in regard to availability of defibrillators?
Yeah, so our study was really looking at how far you'd have to travel along the road network to get a defibrillator, which relies on someone being able to go and physically get it while another person's in cardiac arrest, and you've got third person doing CPR. Obviously, a drone will take all of that out. The drone could just deliver the defibrillator right to where the person had the cardiac arrest. So we think that could have amazing potential for the future. It's been used successfully in studies in Scandinavia, where they've shown that it's possible, but it's not been used in actual cardiac arrests yet. And in the UK, we're a bit held back by the legislation from the Civil Aviation Authority about where you can actually fly drones beyond the line of sight. So all these things are in their very much infancy, but it would be a great opportunity for the future.
Yeah, so a lot to work out there, but I hope to see it materialise. I hope it happens, and look forward to that.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now I'm here with David Austin. Hello.
Hello.
Great day so far. How does it feel to be at this point in the process now?
Relieved, I would say. A lot of planning has gone into this day. A lot of people involved. From Helen Gagan, who did a lot of event organising, but we've had a lot of thoughts gone into how we're going to celebrate 30 years of cardiac care on the T-side, but also talking about the research side, really, because this is a research day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's about how what we've done in the past. We're on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Professor de Belder came back to talk to us about in the beginning. And I think there's something about nostalgia that's quite nice. It creates a nice vibe in the room.
Yeah.
But what's even better is to then say, and we're moving on here, and we're doing something positive for the future. And this new unit, it's a key enabler really for us to kind of move where we want to move.
Yeah.
And to fulfill our vision.
It was really nice to have that the talks be a progression of sort of where we came from, give everybody that context and ideas, and it's interestingly like a kind of end point, but also the beginning point, because the road that you've taken to get here, but also now the starting point of what do you do now that you're here. So
you're almost quoting Winston Churchill.
Oh, okay, that was unintentional, but thank you. So I'm standing on the shoulders of those before.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm quoting David Austin. So do you want to just give us a little statement about what you see for this sort of immediate future, and then also maybe further in the future?
So the immediate future is providing a home for our delivery team, a home for us to see our patients in an environment that's appropriate, that's near the cardiac unit, not in the cardiac unit, and really provide that kind of continuity of care for the patients so they can see being within a clinical trial as being a routine part of normal care. That's the aim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, it provides a home for the academic cardiovascular unit that we've spoken about before, and it allows us a place to grow into. And we're co-located, the delivery team is co-located with those who design and manage research. And that's fantastic for me because I try to be involved with all three of those things. And the people that we've brought in to assist us in doing so, Rebecca Maier, Lisa Chang, are completely essential really to our ambition and what we want to do in the future. And we're just going to grow our team as the trials. We've already got 2 trials we're running. We've just had another trial, another study that's been brought on board at Newcastle University, AstraZeneca, South Tees collaboration, and we have others. The Restore trial we heard about, Joel Dunning, and so we've got other ideas in the pipeline waiting to hear. Let's see where we can take this.
Yeah, amazing. Well, can't wait to see you as well.
Good.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Cheers.
So thank you very much for listening, everybody. I hope you agree. Some fantastic conversations there. Really inspirational discussions with some fantastic individuals, and just again a huge congratulations to everyone involved at the South Tees Academic Cardiovascular Unit. It's a great achievement. So just before we end the podcast this week, Laura, is there anything that you will take away from the conversations we've had today?
I think what's really inspiring is the passion from everybody we've spoken to and everybody who seems to be involved, and it's not just a passion that has come about because of the unit and the space. It's the passion that's began many years ago. I mean, definitely before I was born. From the
you
dates,
mentioned that to a lot of people today.
From the dates on the slides, but but that's exactly why it is so inspiring to know that these ideas were conceived in the path, the road to where we are now. Started many years ago, and it's really the motivation and the determination of this community that has enabled it to happen. So it's amazing to come back, considering, we spoke to Dr. Austin when it was very early days at the beginning of the Hearts and Minds campaign.
Yeah.
So my main takeaway from today will be to stay motivated and to build each other up as a community and work together.
Lovely words, Lauren.
What
Yeah.
about you? What was your, how do you feel after today?
I've had such a great day, actually, to hear from pretty much everyone the feeling of community, that feeling of being part of a family. It can hopefully be a template for how other teams in research and further field work, in terms of having that single vision. Everyone that has come before is working here now and is working there in the future is all working towards the same goal, and it's evident that there is a lot of power in that.
Yeah, and the amount of time that family was mentioned by all of
100%.
our guests, it really goes to show you like how much of a strong community they've built, and it definitely is. It's a really exciting moment in the journey of the ACU, because it seems like almost the end of a long road to get to this point, which enables them to now start from here to create a lot of research and acts as a bit of a new beginning.
I totally, because there was a quote from Churchill in there, I think at one point, and a quote from David Austin, which we agree two of the most influential figures in history.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're on the way to what their goal of achieving international excellence. They're definitely on the way. We're so lucky to have that homegrown talent and homegrown ideas.
100%. And again, thanks to everyone who was so generous with the time. This podcast was started, I think, to promote the research that is ongoing in the Northeast, and this has just been a fantastic example of the Northeast performing on the UK and international scale.
Yeah. Well done, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.